All right, folks, you can see the presentation, you can hear me well, so I'll start.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, so this is a consulting resume and cover letter workshop. You can use it for finance too, because the professions are, I would say, in many ways, uh, parallel professions. Both are analytics related, both are sought after pretty heavily, and the the interviewers or the people who are hiring, they're looking for certain themes, certain things in resumes and cover letters, and we'll go through that. But for ease of it, I'll use the term consulting, but you can think of this as finance too. Um, I'll give you a bit of uh, background about me so that you understand where I'm coming from. So I'm Mayank, I'm the CEO of CaseBasix. I worked in consulting for a couple of years. I did equity research for a year or so. And so I have a background in consulting, in finance, and I've seen the parallels between the two industries, the differences. But I would say by and large, the resume, cover letter are kind of same. The formats are the same. What they're looking for is very similar. So let's get started. So today's agenda is I'll quickly tell you what sort of resources you have. Like I think your management team has done a great job in getting resources, putting them on the website so you can find them easily. Why you need a resume and cover letter. Then we'll go through consulting resume, consulting cover letters, and then any questions you have. So quickly, Cambridge has resources on their resources section, and you can find CaseBasix over there. You can access it a couple of ways, but um, over there, the first link is a resume, cover letter, resources, um, and I've put the link over here. So in case you guys have any issues, you can find that there. On our website, you will find broadly three areas. So that's networking, resume, and cover letter. Today we'll talk about resumes and cover letter, but I would say networking is a massive part of getting job offers from MBB, Big Four, boutique consulting firms, and also in finance. And the reason is networking is built into the job uh, application or getting the job process. Without networking, it's next to impossible to get a job with any of these firms. So keep that in mind. All right. So as far as MBB firms go, they have kind of a set process to get a job at their firm, right? So I've kind of listed it over here in a three-panel slide, and you'll see that resume cover letter is right on top. So there's an HR review. We call it round 00. They take a look at your resume cover letter. They can have a 15-minute call or a Zoom chat with you, or maybe in-person meeting. Then you go through the online tests, which we also have on CaseBasix website, but then you go to round 1 and round 2 interviews. So resume, what's the purpose and how to build a stellar resume? That's what we'll discuss today. So resume's purpose is really, it's your billboard. You differentiate yourself and you list your achievements. Keep in mind that the whole goal of getting a job is to differentiate yourself. Like if you can do that, then you'll automatically get the job. So getting a job is more like a result of you differentiating yourself and they liking what they see. So the theme is going to be, how do you differentiate yourself? And think of it this way. All of you folks are in Cambridge, great brand name, they love it. But within Cambridge, in some ways, you are a commodity. I don't want to use that word, but in some ways, when they're looking at you, you're absolutely much more accomplished than the regular person out there. But within Cambridge, they can't hire everyone. They can't hire 3,000 people at once. So then they need to come up with a way to rank all the applicants from Cambridge. So how are you going to differentiate yourself? So your resume and your cover letter and your networking abilities are very important in getting you notice, getting you ahead of the game. So how do interviewers use your resume, right? So number one, they check competency. You're going to list a whole bunch of things over there. They want to know, they want to see it before sometimes they meet you. And they get a sense of fit. And I'll get to it in a minute, but I typically used to look at a lot of the resumes have a personal section. I'd loved reading about that because I'd get a sense of a person as to what they enjoy, what really they like doing in their free time. And then I'd be curious to meet them. And that was kind of, a cool part of the section, a cool section of the resume. And so keep in mind that some part of a resume is around fit. And typically resumes are scanned for like 10 seconds. And in 10 seconds, I'll kind of make a decision whether I want to spend more time with this person on this resume and so on and so forth. And I'll show you how interviewers do that. The resume sections, there are 5 sections: name and contact, education, professional experience, skills, and personal. This format, I don't think it's changed for a decade. It's not going to change going forward. I would say stick to that. You can't put personal on top. You can't put skills right on top. I would say you can play a bit with education and professional experience. If you have got a lot more professional experience and you've got great brand names there to differentiate yourself, like big name banks, big name consulting firms, or Fortune 500 companies, great, yeah, put your professional experience first. But if you are right out of school, the top experience that you have is education, then you want to put that foot first, get that noticed. If you have great GPA, if you won a whole bunch of awards, you want them to see your education first. Again, you've got 10 seconds of real estate. You decide what you want me to see first. Do you want me to see education or professional experience? What is going to give the biggest bang for the buck? So I typically tell people, you decide what I see for the first 5 seconds. I decide what I want to do with the next 5 seconds. And so use this wisely. And we'll get into the details later on. But at this point, I'm going to go through one section at a time. Really, the first one is name and contact. The more boring, the better. Use regular font like Times Roman, that's fine. Arial, Calibri. Don't use any font that is kind of weird out there that they can't read. I typically just list a phone number and an email. I don't list the address for personal reasons. There's other places you can put the address. Don't put it in the resume. Email needs to be professional sounding. Okay, you can't have cooldude@gmail.com. Like you're trying to convince them that you can. You're a mature candidate for this role. You can hold your own in front of C-suite executives. Cool Dude doesn't do that for you. It kind of demarkets yourself, or you demarket yourself, and it kind of differentiates you in a not so good way. So keep that in mind. So this section, I would say keep it boring, keep it normal. There's no creativity that you can show over here. First name, last name, email address, that's fine. The email address that you choose, I mean the domain that you choose, try to stick with either your school email address. I think if I see Cambridge, that is cool. I already know you're from Cambridge. That's great use of my 10 seconds. I think the first couple of seconds, I'll just see the email address. That's a great brand name to have in your resume. Use it to your advantage. You worked for it, you paid for it, use it. But if you decide to use another email address or a domain, try to stick to Gmail or one of the big ones. If you go to live.ca or some internet company is giving you some email address, keep in mind that this email is going to be used for logistical purposes too. So they're going to run your background checks. They're going to run a whole bunch of things. And if that email provider does not have good spamming filters, you may miss critical information from these companies. Okay, stick to Gmail. Stick to maybe Hotmail as far as it take it. Anything else, say stay away from that. The next section is education. Again, the goal is to differentiate yourself from the competition, right? This is kind of the next 4 seconds that I take a look at in case education is the best experience that you have. So over here, the format is pretty standard. University name, degree name, city, state, and kind of timelines. Timelines are important. They want to see when you started, when you finished. I mean, they don't want somebody who took like 15 years to complete a degree. I don't think you guys have that problem, but they do want to see a timeline, right? It's not the first thing that they notice, but please do put it. The one thing that I want to see is GPA right away. Whenever I reviewed hundreds and thousands of resumes, the first thing I saw was GPA if I knew that person was fresh out of uni or had more education than professional experience. We'll talk about low GPAs and all that kind of stuff later on, but I do want to see GPA. Don't leave it out. It's not going to do you any favors. Even if there's a low GPA, as an interviewer, I want to see why there's a low GPA and have you done something to combat that. So keep that in mind. So absolutely put the GPA. It's very important. I would say from an achievements perspective, put achievements and awards and really tell the dollar figure that you got. It's very important. If you got an award for like $1,000, that isn't as cool as getting an award for like $200,000 or $300,000, right? You got a massive scholarship, put that. That is a great sign of, this person is a high potential candidate. You're differentiating yourself. And also put how many people competed. Like, are you top 5 out of 10? Are you top 5 out of 300? I have no way of knowing. So don't assume that the person knows what awards that you won. Talk yourself up. Tell them exactly what it was. Use 3 or 4 words, but give them a sense of, look, I was top 3 in a room full of 300, 400 candidates. That is very important for me. Give me context. Okay. So the first 4 seconds, I'm looking for, are you different from the competition? And these are 3 or 4 things that you're telling me that you're really different from the competitions. So quantitatively tell me, why should I hire you? The other one is test scores. Absolutely list them if they're great. And tell me the test score, percentiles, and GMAT, GRE, A-level, O-levels, SATs. These are regular tests that I would say most of the interviewers have taken. So they have a pretty decent idea of the standard. These are really good brand names. So I see a GMAT, GRE with a great percentile. That for me is a very good sign that this person is confident about their score and they want me to know about it. And keep in mind, a lot of these roles are analytical. So they're looking for folks that have strong analytical capabilities, okay? So you want them to see that early on, especially if you have a more education experience than professional experience. And we'll get to that in a second. So let's say you don't have the best GPA, okay? What do? I'd say there's a couple of things you can do. One is you can address that in your cover letter. Say, look, I had this personal problem, or this course really was pretty bad. But then also tell me, what did you do to compensate for that? For example, you could say, look, I was in a consulting club, I was leading something, I was doing some initiatives, I organized this, I was in a particular sport, I volunteered. So they're looking for leadership experience or whatever it is. And the other thing you can do is in your cover letter, tell them, look, my GRE or GMAT score or these test scores are really good. So it kind of balances out. And I understand your story then. Your storytelling capabilities are kind of demonstrated in the cover letter. The other thing is that's where networking really helps. In networking, you can actually tell them, look, my GPA took a nosedive last time because of so-and-so reason. But I'm really good at this. So you can literally say that to the person, see what the reaction is, and also get feedback as to what they get differently for that particular firm, whether it be consulting or finance. Sometimes it's like, to show your interest, just start your CFA. To show your interest, join a consulting club as a leader, help them organize some things and so on and so forth. So that shows a drive in another direction. And so you're basically saying, don't just look at me for my GPA, look at the other things that I've done. Very, very important. Professional experience, that's again, to differentiate yourself from the competition. The format is really the latest experience first, go down to the most, the past. So chronological is the best. Stick to 3 to 4 bullet points. Again, it's like company name, city, state, and from when to when. If you're currently working there, just say present. This format doesn't change at all. Don't try to get creative over here. You're spending your energy in the wrong space, right? The other thing is interviewers expect to see this. So if you change the format, I'm going to use my 10 seconds to figure out what did you just do. I'm kind of confused. You can play around with a few colors. Of course, just stick to blue. Don't use red, orange, or whatever. A little bit of blue here and there is fine. It kind of differentiates you from the competition. It could make it easy on the eyes, but keep in mind, it's like the cherry on the cake. It's not going to take away from the actual content. So over here, a few things to keep in mind are, 3 to 4 bullet points. Don't go to 7, 8 bullet points. Just stick to 3. That shows me that you can prioritize 3 things that you really, really want to talk about, okay? Don't talk about 50 things. Everybody has 50 things on their resume. Talk about the 3 things. In the end, you want to keep it 1 page, maximum 1.5 pages. If you have a lot of professional experience, you cannot go to more than 2 pages, period. That's not allowed. There's no rule against that, but just keep in mind that every resume that they see is 1 to 1.5 pages. So you want to stick to 3 to 4 bullet points over here. Action verb, very important. I led, I, leveraged, I created, I collaborated. That's how you want to start. And if you see, I'm showing you where my eyes go to. As soon as the professional experience, my eyes look at the format first and then start literally scanning the left side. And I'm looking for a few things. Number 1, I want to see leadership right away. And the first bullet point is led. Great. Then this person is saying leveraged. Great. That basically means, you do something with productivity. You know what leverage means. You're trying to do more than the time that you have. That's great. Created something, utilized. All these things are very important. And keep in mind, now everything is not going to be led over here. If you don't have like 5 years experience, you're not in a position to lead each and every initiative. But there are aspects that you can lead. If you don't have that, then you need to start building a resume where you take on projects where you actually lead something. Very, very important. The day you make your resume, if you look back and say, oh, man, I didn't have an opportunity to lead anything, it's too late. And we'll talk about resume strategy in a bit, but I'm just telling you, this is what I'm looking for. In the next 4 seconds, I'm looking for led, created, co-collaborated, co-led, whatever it is, I'm looking for all of those keywords. So start with action verb, and then I'm looking for basically quantifying, like what did you achieve? You led something, okay, what came out of that? All right, $11 million something. Then I see 27%, $50 million, 60%. So these are the figures I start seeing because these stand out. You must quantify. That's how you differentiate yourself, okay? And so my eyes go to the blue circles and in the orange circles right away because I want to see, okay, he led or she led and she collaborated. And then what was the end goal? Like, what was the impact? Did you have an impact or there was no impact? And you're talking about consulting and finance firms. They're very impact focused. They want to see how many dollars you saved, how many dollars you made, how much time you saved, what efficiencies you got. So please quantify those. And as soon as you quantify those, I am confident that you are confident in yourself projecting these numbers. We're going to have a conversation about that in the personal experience interview section anyways. But over here, I'm very happy that you're at least doing that. And you're owning up to whatever you've done in your professional experience. And you're saying, look, this is the impact I've had on this planet, in this role, on this company. Very, very important. If I don't see quantities, I typically, my interest starts going down pretty pretty fast, because MBBs, consulting firms, and finance firms are not looking for folks who are looking to, cruise. They're looking for people who provide a whole bunch of impact every day, and they want to see evidence. The other thing is, what is the other differentiation of professional experience? And you see the green circles. This particular person has, experience dealing with SVPs and CFOs. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. There's some leadership experience there, because it's not easy to talk to C-suite. And I don't think I see this in a lot of resumes. I'm giving you an example, but there could be other things like, you collaborated with 10,000 people, or you gathered research from 50 countries. Like, I'm saying something that's very unique to you, your professional experience, okay? So over here, it's like, okay, the end goal, the job in management consulting or in finance is going to be dealing with C-suite. So this is really beneficial to you because it's very relevant to us as a company that's trying to hire you. Skills and personal experience. So that's number 4. I would say the goal over here is to, again, differentiate yourself, and you can put languages, technical skills, and interests over here. Languages is important because in consulting and finance, you deal with, at a global scale, you deal with a lot of clients. So they want to know where they can staff you. If you have, if you're fluent in Mandarin, they'll probably could send a project that's in Asia somewhere. Spanish, you could go to Spain, you can go to South America. And I remember colleagues who actually knew Spanish got to go to Spain. I didn't. So I kind of, I should have taken those Spanish classes seriously, I guess. So these things matter. Interviewers are looking at, where can they deploy you in the future? And you know what? It's a cool skill to have. If you have multiple languages, always cool. Put any language over there. Don't think of, a certain language is a lower tier than any other language. These are all assets you've built over your lifetime. Please put them there. This is a billboard. You should put them there. Skills is mostly professional skills. If you have juggling skills, wait to the next section. Professional skills is Microsoft, Google, AI nowadays, coding, tools, analytics, all that kind of stuff. And if you say Microsoft Office, they understand, yeah, you know everything. However, in Excel, if you have things like, look, when somebody says I've worked in investment banking and I know Excel, and they have been in investment banking for like 3 years, the level of Excel that person knows versus the level of Excel a person who's just kind of come out of uni knows is going to be drastically different, right? So interviewers see this section, and then they correlate it to their professional experiences, and they kind of get a sense of how good this person is in these areas. I've known PowerPoint all my life, but the level of PowerPoint that I knew post BCG was just next level. And I'm trying to give you a sense of, you can write whatever you want. The interviewers kind of get a good sense of what your capabilities are there. And so you can probably say something like, Excel, and say kind of what sort of level you have in terms of, Excel modeling skills. So you could say Excel, DCF, modeling, or some sort of complex analysis. Put that there. In case you didn't go to investment banking, but your Excel skills are much better than others, differentiate yourself over there, saying that my Excel is much better than the others. Because that basically means it takes you less time to ramp up on projects. Interests, critical section. I know a lot of people debate about this, but this is the one section that I always saw. Even if I didn't like the resume, I really want to know who I'm looking at. And this is the cool section. It gives me a sense of fit. And, put everything over here. If you if you do run 3 times a week, I want to know that. If you love coffee, singing, dancing, crocheting, Put that there. Your interests are for you to project to the rest of the world. And I think you should be proud of that and put it over there. And typically, what I used to do is in interviews, I would definitely have one question around a personal interview a personal interest as to why they do that and why do they find joy in that. And I know a lot of partners do that too in finance, in consulting industry. They love this section. Everyone loves this section because inherently it differentiates everyone from everyone else, right? Like your personal interests in Cambridge, your personal interests are very different from your peers. So this is a very cool section. Spend time over here. Again, you got to strategize as to how and what you want to put over here. I'm going to do a quick time check. I think we got that time. Yeah, and then list any awards you won and the dollar figures around that, and also give us a sense of how many people were competing at that point. It's very important that somebody knows that you won a certain award in horse riding out of so many people in a certain country. That tells people that you're an achiever outside of your professional life too. So resume strategy, this is very important. You don't want to be in a spot where you have to apply to all these cool firms and then you're looking at resume as just a document and then you're trying to put numbers there, but you're not sure. You're trying to put all these experiences, but you're not 100% sure because you will be asked about them. This is just literally a billboard, but once you sit in the room, there's going to be 4 or 5 rounds of interviews where, every round is 10 to 15 minute section of personal interview. So you'll be asked about all of these in the firm by 4 or 5 different people, and you have to be able to defend yourself. So you need to have a strategy to put this up there. So the one takeaway you should have from all of this is work on your resume early on. If you have 6 months, start working right now. It's the right time. I would say 1 month, 2 months is going to be way too late, because you don't know until you put your pen down on paper how difficult sometimes is to write something, right? To project it and to ensure that in 10 seconds you stand out. Get your resume professionally reviewed. Expert check for errors. They pressure test it. So once somebody's reading it, they'll say, okay, did you actually lead or were you participating? And they'll make you think about what you're writing over there before it goes to the firm, because the firm's going to then check it. So they'll pressure test it quite a bit. And then they'll also elevate your resume. Sometimes people come to me and they say, oh, I collaborated here and collaborated there. And then I ask them a few questions and I was like, okay, actually you were leading this. And instead of collaborating, I get it. The whole project was a whole big collaboration effort, but were there specific elements that you led and what was the outcome from that? And then they flush out those details and we highlight those first. And remember, you want to start with led first and then come to collaborated. So there's a cadence to the action verbs that you use. The other one is have a strategy, right? Like you want to know what are the gaps that you have for this role that you want to apply to in your resume and your cover letter, and you want to fill them as soon as possible. And while you're building your resume, you're also networking at the same time. And I think you're going to get some advice from people, let's say somebody who's an alumni of Cambridge, that they can then give you some advice as to how to format something a bit differently. So that's where networking really helps, is you can get some bits and pieces of information that you didn't know that you could. For example, they could say, oh, wow, I love chess. And if you played chess and they played chess, you want to then highlight chess, not only in your resume, but in your cover letter, as to saying that, look, I met a few people that also enjoy chess. I enjoy chess. And so I think I'm a great fit for this firm. That does happen. And they want people to not only find fit in terms of professional achievements, like, yes, I want to be in analytics. That's why I want to get into consulting. But I also enjoy the company of all these people who also enjoy jazz and dancing and singing, or whatever it is, that are also in this firm, because you're going to deal with human beings. You have to work with these human beings. You're not only dealing with professionals. So the point I'm trying to make is you need to have a strategy while building a resume, and you need to have enough runway to start like formatting your story in a resume format. We'll talk about the cover letter too, but this is, I would say, the biggest takeaway you should have before you apply to these jobs. Now, the question is, if you don't have time, what do you do? Like, let's say you have 2 weeks. Again, get your resume professionally reviewed ASAP, do your best, and what your resume may lack, you can probably build up in your cover letter. That's where resume and cover letter go hand in hand. You can also then say a few things in your HR interview that pique interest in you. You could try to get additional meetings, network with a few people in the firm to kind of, strategize to get into that firm. So if you have lesser time, definitely get help from professionals so they can tell you how do you use cover letter, networking, and your HR interview to actually get into the room. And that buys you a bit of time to then work on your personal interview stories and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, if a resume gets you in, I mean, that's done. Like, you don't need to update your resume after that, but to defend the resume is another story, right? So how do you format your personal interview stories is very, very important. So the next section is cover letter. I would say let's discuss the purpose and how to build a stellar cover letter. So purpose really is express interest in the company, tell them that you're a great fit, and again, differentiate yourself, why you are the best. A lot of these companies just want 1 to 5% of the people that apply, so you really, really want to differentiate yourself. And I know there's a debate around, should you write a cover letter or not? I would say write it, but make it meaningful for that firm, for that company, for those people. You don't want a generic template there. You want personal details in there. You want details as to, how you interacted with them, who you met. You don't want to be name dropping partner names. That doesn't help unless you know them really well and they recommended you. You got a referral. Just say that over there, like you got a referral. But you want to do it in a way that it's like, look, I enjoyed meeting these people. These are human beings. I loved it. And I think I love to work here. And the way they look at this is, yeah, you might be a great fit from an Excel standpoint, PowerPoint standpoint, great. But will you enjoy working here? Like, will you come in and leave in 3 months? That doesn't serve your purpose or their purpose. So they want some evidence of, will you be a great fit, and can you stay here for the next 5 to 7 years? Will others love working with you? That's basically at a high level what fit means. So there are literally 3 sections over here. The first one is recruiter's name and your address and all that kind of stuff. Now, I would just say, nowadays cover letters are in digital format, so you don't need all of this job title, name, company's address. Like, this is in case you were going to send them something very formal in, hand deliver something, and people have done that too. But I would say stick to dear recruiter's name, leave it over there. Get the name right. Absolutely get the name right. Don't get it wrong. Double check it, triple check it. That's very important. Have it proofread by somebody. Let them check the details. The second one is content. Again, differentiate yourself. Why you, basically. And, the first section is really express interest. Over here, you want to be bold. You want to be confident. Don't be meek over here. Oh, I think I might be good. Don't use those words. Just say, yes, I'm a great fit. I know your company. I've met these people. That's why I know the company. Or I've interacted with so many alumni and they've told me great things about it. I've done all my research. You want to express your interest there very, very strongly. You want to be confident over there. You want them to think that this is the thing on your mind right now. And then, the next few sections are why you. So basically that could be, look at my achievements. Yes, there was a dip, but you see the other stuff that I've done. I'm awesome. you have to humble brag a bit, because if you don't do it, nobody else will. And keep in mind, they've not seen you. So your words, the way you tell your story in words is very important. I would definitely scan through all the cover letters that I got, and I got thousands of them. And literally, I was looking for why you. Like, this is your one chance to give me like 300-word essay on why you. And some people did it really well, and some people said, "Look, I've met so many people. My achievements are great. Um, I think I've built for this job or whatever it is, and so on and so forth." Right? So that's very important. Fit with culture is critical, I would say, over here. And again, you can talk about the firm events that you've gone to, the projects that you've done that involved some alumni or whatever it is, um, the consulting projects you've done in, let's say, a pro bono consulting organization. That's why you think you'll fit with the culture in terms of, the way McKinsey does things or the way JP Morgan does things. You've worked with some of the alumni, or you know them, or there's friends over there, or you know some colleagues who are there. The last thing is just conclude and basically re-express your interest. That is very important. And I think the cover letter strategy is very similar to resume strategy. Make sure that you get a professional to take a look at it, because what they're going to do is they're going to step back and look at it and say, is this really you? Have you done this? Or are you saying something that may trigger not so positive response? Those things are very important, because if you can't get your foot in the door, there's no playing games or tests. There's no round one and round two interviews. So keep that in mind. You want to make sure that somebody other than yourself thinks it's a great resume cover letter, and they elevate you, they showcase you. It's very important that they help you right size the amount of humble bragging that you've done. You can't be too much, can't be too little. It has to be just right. It has to sound very confident. And you want to use the right words, you want to use the right phrases, and you want to elicit the best response. So that's very important. The other thing is, again, have a strategy. If there are gaps, fill those gaps ASAP, talk to somebody. We typically tell people, like, if we see gaps in a cover letter, like you're not 100% sure, network. That's where you do your research, fill the gap. And networking allows you to actually ask the questions that you want to ask. And it could be firm events, virtual or in person. It could be one-on-one coffees. It could be mock interviews with ex-MBBs. But you have to say something to the effect of, look, I really enjoy this job. I'm super confident that I do enjoy this job, and I'm willing to have a conversation with you in my personal interview. Because if you don't, then others are going to do it. And it's kind of a norm now for everyone to really express their interest in that particular firm. And be very specific about it. Like, if you network with BCG and you talk about, look, I have met consultants, but then you're writing to McKinsey, that won't cut it. Like, that's very generic. I love the consulting industry, but you're not answering the question, why do you love McKinsey? Why do you love Bain? Or let's say you want to go into finance and you talk to some random finance people, but you didn't talk to somebody in Goldman Sachs. They want to see that you talk to someone in Goldman Sachs. So they want that evidence there. So hence, if you have that gap, fill that gap through networking, actually doing it well, and getting some evidence of you actually do like that person. You want to go there, and getting signals that they like you too. In fact, they say, yeah, I'll refer you, or we'd love to work with you. That is a great sign, right? And so you will know in your heart whether you want to go in that industry or not. And don't worry about it. If you don't get the best feeling, maybe try it out 2 or 3 other times with other firms to see whether it was that firm you don't want to go to, or whether it's this profession you don't want to go to. But that passion needs to show up in your cover letter. I can't stress that enough. And that's the one takeaway over here, is you need to have a cover letter strategy. I think for next steps, I would say, if you want, contact us for your resume and cover letter if you want to get them reviewed. We've already given you resources. That's on your consulting club's website. We do offer 50% discount for our services for Cambridge. So that's the biggest discount that we offer. And you can easily write to us at support@casebasix.com, or I'll leave my email address with Matt, and you can contact me through there. But we'll get you in touch with some of our consultants who can review your content in 30 minutes, build a strategy for you, and kind of take you through that whole process, and get you successful. I think that's very important. This is it. I'll do a quick time check. We've got like 10-15 minutes, so I'll take any questions you have. I'll stop presenting at this point. Sorry, I went pretty fast, but I wanted to make sure that I got all the information in there. Anything I can answer for you folks?
Awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Mike, for a really insightful, comprehensive review of what they're looking for in CVs and cover letters. And one of the questions I that came to my mind as you were speaking was, I know like most of us will be applying to jobs in the UK, but for those people who, let's say, might want to apply to a job internationally, does this process, kind of the maps you laid out and the kind of things to call out, do they stay the same for international office applications, or will there be slight changes there?
They'll stay exactly the same, because all these firms hire globally, and they have the same kind of resume standard, same cover letter standard, and the work that they do is pretty standard. They maintain a very high standard. So if you go to JP Morgan in UK versus US, I mean, banking is banking, Excel analysis is Excel analysis, and they're looking for top talent globally. Okay, and so basically they understand Cambridge is a global brand for hundreds and thousands of years, and so that doesn't change. So the section 1 will not change for the resume. Second is your awards will not change. The thing is, you need to give them context. So they may not understand how Cambridge works. So, I got this award and I was like top 5 out of 300 candidates. You have to give them context, right? They might understand what works in the US. I know a lot of folks transition to the Middle East, and Middle East knows the top unis really well. The recruiters know exactly who to hire, how to go about talking to these folks. So they know who you are. They know the brand names. They understand the firm's expectations. So that doesn't change. I think the only thing is, we didn't cover it today, but networking. How do you network with these people? And we can do a different session on networking, but networking is something that you'll have to do if you want to change countries. And you have to have a pretty strong reason why you want to, leave UK and go to country X. I mean, they're not going to hire you if you don't know the language. That's very, very difficult for them and you. So you can't like land up in Indonesia if you wanted to go to Indonesia, unless you know the language, and kind of that becomes very difficult. But yes, it is possible to go to UK, the Middle East, and so on and so forth. You have to be reasonable with your expectations. One place you should definitely go to is Reddit, McKinsey _BCG Bain. There's a lot of these kind of questions there. It says office preference, where can I apply? And there's a lot of XMBB folks that come in, answer questions. And there's actually Keith from Bain, who is a global head of consultant recruiting for Bain. I kid you not. This guy is like the big daddy of all these guys who do all this consulting recruiting globally. And he sometimes responds to, your questions.
Yeah.
And it'll be very clear, like, this is what you can do, cannot do. And I would say the other M&B, like McKinsey and BCG, are pretty similar to that. Like, so that's a great resource. Yeah, so there's a section called Roast My Resume. You can go post there. You can say MBB applications. You can post over there with that flair, and you'll get it looked by somebody who's ex-MBB and or somebody who has gone through a very similar process, and they've told you, look, this is what happened to me, and this is my condition, and you can draw parallels from that.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for that, Mike. Well, I think there are a couple questions in the chat, so I'll try and get the link for that Reddit page and put it in the chat so our members can pop over, have a look at that.
Yeah. Any other questions?
There was one from Furhat. I don't know if you can see that one in the chat.
Just read it out.
So he says, I have some additional information, such as a few academic publications that I usually add to a third page of my CV to show that I've done more than just internships. Is that unnecessary, especially considering that it extends my CV to a third page?
Third, look, PhD is a bit different because they look at PhDs as actual experience. So when you do apply, you don't go to the lowest tier of, let's say, an MBB firm. You go to the consultant level or the one tier above. So they look at you as a more mature applicant. Try to cut it down to 2 pages, all right? Like you do have internships, cut it down to 2 bullet points because it's an internship. It's not a full-blown job. So your the type of responsibilities that you're given doesn't justify like 7 bullet points. So cut it down to 2 or 3 bullet points. Leave and stick to led and collaborated or whatever it is with dollar figures or what size of projects were you on. Then in terms of publications, keep it relevant to look. This is the publication, and just give a brief name of this is the publication. This is what I did. The way they look at it is, yeah, okay, you've done professional work. That's how they see publications. Unless you're close to winning a Nobel Prize, all publications are kind of commoditized into, okay, great, you got great publications. Go to Roast My Resume, McKinsey, BCG Bain on Reddit, and there's PhD resumes, and people have actually, or ex-MBBs have actually told people how to cut the amount of publications down, right? You can give a brief description, but they're not looking for the full description of or the full abstract of what you did and all that kind of stuff. Like they're just like, okay, this is the title, but they're more interested in what it achieves. Like that's it. You can expand on that in the personal interview, but I would say stick to 2 pages maximum. Third page is like, I'm unless you have like 6-7 years of experience, 8 years of experience, and it's very diverse. Like I knew a guy who was very interesting, ex-CIA, Wharton, Harvard, I think, or undergrad at UPenn and went to Harvard. Climbed like 7 peaks. If he has 3 pages, yeah, I'd love to read those 3 pages. Like, what did you do as a CIA? Like, what were you doing? Like, that's super cool. But really, at that point, like third page is like, it's got to really justify what the third page is all about. Like, it becomes very difficult unless you have like 7 internships and you shifted a whole bunch. But I would stick to 2 pages.
Yeah, thanks for that. I hope that answers your question. And there was a second one from Alessandra about a session on networking strategy. So, Alessandra, should there be enough interest, I can ask Mike if he'd have the time to do an entire session on that. But just in case we don't get around to doing that, do you have any like quick tips that you'd be able to share now with regards to how to like carry out networking?
Yeah. The number one tip is actually network. Without networking, you're not getting the job, period. Like, I cannot stress that enough. Think of it this way. Networking is kind of the first step to knowing these people. And these firms deliberately put the networking layer so they weed out the people who are just not that much into the firm. Okay, it's a layer to get to know them, but it's also a barrier to entry for people who are not interested, who just don't have the time for consulting or finance roles, right? So they want to know that you actually will take the time and effort to get in your car, drive to them, have a coffee, because it takes hours and hours of prep, right? Like you have to take time out of your day. Even if it's a virtual networking call, you have to think about it, you have to dress up and so on and so forth. So absolutely, you must network. It's a requirement. without networking, forget about not getting a job or forget about getting a job. Like it's not going to happen. I know networking is seen as a maybe, and resume and cover letter are more like hard assets that you need to give to them. But I would say your time and your presence and your energy and the feel that you have are also assets that you need to project. And the firm needs to see that, number one. Network with anyone you can, like junior to senior, doesn't matter. And we've got networking tips on our website, right? Like top 10 networking tips, how to network. Treat networking as an interview, but make a friend. So you got to dress up. Don't show up in shorts. We're not going to get the job. Show up as, okay, fine, like business casual is fine, but obviously wear white shirt and all kind of stuff, like be professional. If you're shabby, that's literally you're out. So grooming has to be really well. So you have to show up as you have to dress equally to them. Think of it that way. If they're going to show up in shorts, you show up in shorts. That's fine. But if they're going to show up in a coffee shop and it's middle of the day during work and they're in a suit, you're kind of casually dressed. Okay, so that's very important. So networking is very important. Do it, but do it really well. Take it very seriously. If you meet somebody at a party, don't inundate them with, hey, I want to reply. If they're having a beer and a good time, let them have a beer, let them have a good time. But just drop it in, like, would you be willing to have a chat later on and let it be? Don't be awkward that way, right? So there's unsaid rules in networking. Don't be too pushy. They'll do it. They'll recommend you if they want to recommend you. Your job is to make them want them to recommend you. A lot of words there, but if you market yourself well, they will recommend you. If they feel that you're a great fit, they'll recommend you. So there are all these tips that you can use, but the biggest takeaway is, yeah, without networking, it's next to impossible to get a job at these firms. Now that they have added games, that's another layer that they've added because everybody started networking, and now they've added all these games and tests, which you folks have access to too. What else? And have a strategy. Going in networking, you got to know what to wear, how to present yourself, what to say, what not to say. You have to practice networking. You have to practice what you say at networking events. And a lot of the students we have, they start networking in second year or first year, right off the bat. So let's say you're in a consulting club and you start getting XMBBs. It's a form of networking. It's a soft networking because you already are learning about what these firms are about, right? Like you may not get the referral right away, but you know how to deal with them. You know how to, what to expect, how to behave, and all those kind of things are very important. So that's a prep to networking. Yeah, so get involved in consulting clubs, get involved in consulting projects. You got to know what to say, what they want to hear. It's literally an exercise in kind of talking yourself up. You got to stage for 5 minutes and really make a friend. People forget that. Like, don't be too professional. In the end, you have to be an interesting person for them to really say, okay, you're interesting plus you're competent. Like fit and competence are two things that they hire for. That's it. There's nothing else. The third is compensation, but compensation is decided, right? Like they don't change it. It's very good, so don't worry about it. Just fit and competence. At any given step, there's always fit and competence. And one-on-one meetings, you want to be very personable, you're nice. And these are all, I would say, human forward jobs. Like you have to deal with people in finance and consulting. So, if you don't enjoy humans, go into something else. But really, it's just that. Like it's, read our tips, read our guides, build a networking strategy. Very, very important. Without a networking strategy, you really don't know how to really use your resume and cover letter. So these three things are like the trinity that work hand in hand and kind of get you, your foot in the door.
Nice, yeah. Thanks for that. So, Alessandra, I hope that answers your question. I think we have two more questions in the chat. Would you have time for
Yep.
those, or should? Yeah. Okay. So one was from Xavier. Xavier, do you want to come off mute and say it for yourself, or should I read out what you've put in the chat?
Hey, no, thanks. Happy to go off mute and pitch myself. That's not a problem. Thanks. Mayank, thank you very much for your presentation. When I got the link for this session with you, it was more tailored towards early stage careers, which I understand with the undergrads. However, my case is just slightly more different. I'm a part-time master's student with almost 6 years of experience overall, with the first three being at an edtech startup slash venture builder, which I moved on to, and then ended up working at my current role, more so in operational excellence for Toyota, so the Japanese
Yep.
automotive firm. And I guess what I wanted a little bit of advice on is I'm looking for the next stage of my career now. I've been here for almost 4 years, working at the European head office. And I wanted to move more so towards consulting and just wanted to understand if my career to date is already too specific for general consulting roles, or should I be looking more towards, operational consulting roles? And just wanted your insights on this.
Got it. First of all, yeah, great resume. Just the way you described it, I can just um, picture your resume in front of me, and you listed a few brand names. So great job in talking yourself up. That's the way to do it. It was very clear the way you communicated, and the sense I got from that is I already want to work with you, right? So you're doing that really well. I would say MBBs, finance firms, and all these guys, they don't differentiate between new hires and undergrads or grads at all. A resume is a resume, same document. Networking is exactly the same. Cover letter is kind of the same. You just have a lot more to talk about, which is great. Like you got great brand names, you got great experience, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just answering that question. Nothing changes from that perspective. You will end up doing the same job. Let's say Matt applied and you applied, you will be doing exactly the same job, analytics, okay? And from there on, it's literally who does it better, gets promoted, and kind of goes up. It's very, very merit-oriented. So age, I would say take that out. It's about competency and fit, okay? And so 6 years is not bad. Actually, you're in a pretty good spot. I think they see you as an asset in either areas, as a general or a specific consultant. If you want to go into the manufacturing excellence, BCG has it, McKinsey has it. Definitely start talking to the partners over there. That decision you need to make, whether you want to stick in manufacturing or you want to then kind of step out and do something else. My personal story is I was in oil and gas for a long time. I went in economics and said, wow, this is cool. I do economics of oil and gas. I want to do it for something else. And by the way, I'm an engineer, don't have an MBA. So I started doing economics. I loved the business aspect of it. I went to BCG and I never worked on any oil and gas projects. It was airlines, utilities, IT, Olympics, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Loyalty points, gas stations. It's totally different. So that's your decision whether you want to really open it up from there or you want to then kind of zero in on a specific role. In general consulting too, you could actually go into general consulting for manufacturing, let's say automotive, and stick there. Or you could just go in the like a kind of center of excellence kind of path where it's like, okay, I want to be behind the scenes, not client facing. You could do that too. That's your decision. They will look at you to define what you want to do. I don't know if you also want to go into finance, but finance also, they love people with diverse backgrounds. I mean, if you look at Breaking into Wall Street, that's a very popular program that somebody's built. That guy is a mechanical engineer who built it because he was bedridden for a few months, and he went into investment banking. So I think consulting and finance are kind of open. Like they're looking for smart candidates who can communicate really well, who've got a great history just like yours. It's just totally up to you. What do you want to do? What would you enjoy? Okay, and they will take you if you're a smart person. I think they'll have a spot for you regardless.
No, thanks, Mayank. I guess the challenge that I have more so when it's coming towards building my CV is, in addition to kind of the work experience that I've had, I've done a lot of side projects, building financial models for other startups, for example, or setting up the admin infrastructure for actually a professional boxer. So I've done a lot of different random things, which gave me new insights into so many different aspects. Which I think I'm already doing a consulting gig on the side, but it's just putting all of that onto one page. How do I go about getting that done? It just becomes a challenge that I'm looking at. Yeah.
Yeah, just prioritize.
Yeah.
Put the coolest thing first. I love the boxer stuff. Put it.
Yeah,
I
he's
definitely,
fighting actually next week for a world championship, so that's pretty cool.
yeah, I love it. Prioritize. Don't go to 3 pages. It's not gonna. So think of it this way, right? Will going to 3 pages increase your chances of getting a job offer or an interview? Probably not. So don't go to 3 pages, and prioritize. The 3 coolest things that you've done. I would say Toyota is a great brand name. The ed tech startup is a great thing. Boxer, 3 things you already done. Like on top of that, there's diminishing returns, right? So then you give me a third page. Now I'm wondering, why do you have a third page rather than ending it very in a strong note on a second
Mhm.
page? I would say I had 8 years experience before I went to MPB. I put it on 1.5 pages. So you should be able to.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
No worries. There was another question.
Yeah, yeah, thanks for that, Mike. Fahad, do you wanna come off mute as well and ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Thanks again also from our side for all the valuable insights and for the time you took. I'd like to ask, I have done a few internships in consultancy, and if I compare all of these, then my tasks were fairly similar, and I want to know how I could avoid repetition when I'm describing the task in my CV.
Yeah, so you don't want to describe the task. They know what consulting is. You want to describe what impact you had. And that's why you don't say, I did Excel. You do Excel everywhere. I did PowerPoint. Every consultant does Excel, PowerPoint, no problem. You don't want to say that. You want to say, what did you do with Excel? Okay, well, I saved $10 million for the client after doing a very complex two-month analysis. That's what I want to know, is the impact you had, not the day-to-day what you were doing in any job. I don't want to know that. I want to know how much money you saved, put the dollar figure, how much time you saved, how much money you made, what efficiencies you got, what impact you had on the people over there, how many do you lead, did your bosses like you, did the people under you like you? Like, that's a great sign if you have all these things. That's a metric of you can lead various initiatives and deliver impact. If you tell me process of doing a job, that wouldn't be a resume. That would be just like, this is what a consultant does. I do understand that. Does that make sense? Because that's kind of the key takeaway is, don't tell me that you did Excel. Tell me what you achieved in firm 1, firm 2, firm 3, right? And I want to see a track record of you saved money, made money, you saved time, or whatever. Like even in nonprofit, how did you save lives, or how did you make distribution easier for, let's say, mosquito nets in a certain country? What did you specifically do to make that firm better, that project better, success factors? That's all that matters. You knowing Excel is in the technical skills. I know Excel, I know PowerPoint. Great, no problem.
Thank you. That makes perfectly sense. But maybe considering the fact that it's an internship, obviously an intern has a limited impact on the company as a whole. So how would you deal with that?
But you should have been part of a project where you achieved something, right? Like, a company is not going to hire you if you don't make or save money. That's what a company does. So you got to figure out that. That's why you need to talk to people and say, okay, in this role, what were we doing? We're like, well, this is what I did every day. All right. What did your boss want to do? What was their intention? Well, they were doing this. Okay, great. In that project that you were on, how was that aligned to the profitability of the firm? Like, what were you trying to do? Well, we're trying to find out, why customers don't come into the store. So, okay, so you're trying to figure out footfall. Like, if you get more footfall, then you kind of sell more things. And so you've got to start there. Like, I was part of a team or led an analysis to figure out the footfall, or part of the team, or supported somebody to figure out why footfall went from 10 million subscribers last year to 5 million subscribers, and how can we get to 5 million? So that's what I want to see. Like, do you even understand the purpose of you being there in that internship, and what was your role, and connect that to the goals of the organization. It could be profit goals, it could be revenue goals, it could be just what a nonprofit has is in terms of saving lives, that kind of stuff. So you need to understand your role, not as an intern. So I think you're diminishing your own value by saying that you were an intern. I think interns serve a very good purpose, otherwise you wouldn't be hired, especially that you're from Cambridge. They have faith that you're a superstar. So you absolutely had some sort of a positive impact. I mean, when you left, was your boss smiling or not? Like, that's a great indicator of whether you had a great impact. And I'm guessing that they did. And so if you had a positive impact, you need to tell that story in that project's context.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, format, like, these things take time, by the way. Like, this is not an afternoon while watching football kind of a task. Formatting a resume, you have to sometimes go through 5 iterations. And every time you have an iteration, you'll be challenged. Like, what were you doing in that role? Well, every day. Okay, fine. But every day, what was your boss doing? Like, he has his boss. He has to make sure that interns are used for a specific purpose for the company's end goal. What was that end goal? And let's say you don't know. Well, next thing you're doing is calling the boss and saying, well, that project I was on, what was that all about? Well, we're trying to do this. Okay, what was the end goal? You take that end goal and start putting that down. It takes time to even write a line. It takes sometimes 3 or 4 days, sometimes a week, because you're not going to hear from your manager right away, or an ex-manager right away. I want to make sure you guys understand logistically, making a resume that MBBs and finance firms, or consulting firms and finance firms want, or the top firms want, takes time. And a lot of people start like in second year if they want to apply into third year, because then they're like, okay, I have these gaps. I need leadership experience. For example, in your case, the next internship, you will actually say that, okay, you know what? I've done a lot of internships. I actually want to lead an initiative. It could be a small initiative, but tell me the final goal. And what I want to do is I want to have this line item. Don't do it for the heck of doing that, but actually deliver value over there. So then you can strategize, right? So making a resume is not a one afternoon job. It sometimes takes multiple iterations, multiple discussions to get there.
Awesome. Yeah, great. Honestly, great. Thank you for answering all those questions, and thank you for staying over time as well to do so. And yeah, from myself and on behalf of everyone here, I think I can say just a massive thank you for the insights you've shared. And yeah, to all of our members, if no one has any last questions, feel free to keep taking advantage of like the resources that CaseBasix has kindly shared with us. And yeah, one final just big thank you to Mike for this workshop. So thank you, Mike.
Thanks, folks. I'll send you the presentation, and this recording, this will be on your website, I guess. So refer to it. But presentation has links. Email us, and we'll help you wherever we can.
Amazing. Thank you. Pleasure as always, mine. Thank you.
Bye, folks.
Bye.
Bye.